Hi there, this is Jeanette. Today I'm going to show you another page that I created for my December daily album. In this one I took two images from Tiddly Inks. I took WinterLight Wryn and Ricky WinterLight and I merged them together on my computer and printed them out on Nina cardstock. So I'm just going to take you through the coloring of the polar bear. This is a little bit different from how I usually color. I am going to lay down my colorless blender. You can see it right here. I'm laying it down in all the areas where I want shadows. And then I'll start putting down some colors. So I'm using C1 and I'm putting that down where I want all my shadows to be. And since I laid down that colorless blender, the paper is wet and the ink from the C1 is going to start blending right away. As soon as I lay it down on top of that colorless blender, it will start sort of blending and you get a really nice diffuse type of color. So anytime I'm coloring something that's white, I use this technique. So now I have my C3 and I'm just doing a very thin outline right over top of that C1, and this is just to give a little bit more contrast, but I'm putting barely any ink down, just a very thin line. And that will already start blending because the paper is wet. So when that's done, I'll go back with my C1 and go right on top of that C3, and just using some little circles, I am just blending it all out. You could also use the warm grays. I'm using cool grays, but you could use the warm grays and use the same technique. So now I'm going to take my C00 and again just go right over on top of that coloring. So it becomes very diffuse and very, very soft and muted. And then I'll take my colorless blender and I'll go over the whole area. Now the paper's wet right now, so it appears darker than it will be when it dries. And then I'll go ahead and I will do the exact same thing to the other polar bear. For the rest of my coloration, I will be using the same coloring technique I usually do. So what I'll do is I'll put on some music for you and I will catch you at the end of that and take you through the rest of the creation of my journal page. When I printed out my image, I printed it out a second time on some masking paper, and now I am just penciling in a horizon, and I will take my scissors and fussy cut that out, and this is going to be my mask that I'll place over my colored image so that when I'm adding the ink, my image stays clean. And here I'm just using my Tim Holtz tool and cutting out all the little bits that are sort of in the center of the image. So I have my masking paper in place now, and I'm using Hero Art's soft yellow, and I'm starting on the masking paper and drawing the ink upwards. I'm going to be using a total of 4 inks, and I'm starting off with the lightest one, and I'm putting that closest to the horizon. So this is a little bit of a long process. I like to start off light and build my color. So I put very light layers of color and just gradually build it until it gets to the depth of color I want. Now this is Hero Art's soft pool. So I am adding that on, starting off now on the edges of my paper and then dragging the ink towards the center and towards that yellow color. When you use these Hero Art colors, I find that at the beginning when you first put the ink down, it's a little bit splotchy. It doesn't look as blended, but as it dries to a beautiful blended finish. So again, I am just gradually building up the color, and I am blending it into the yellow. And you just really have to work at this. You have to be a little bit patient and take your time. The next color is not a Hero Arts ink pad. This is Ranger's Distress ink. This is Salty Ocean. And I wasn't really sure what was going to happen if I sort of used 2 different types of ink. But in the end, it blended pretty well. I was pretty happy with how it looked. So I'm starting at the top of my page and then just dragging it down and blending it into the soft pool. And again, I'm building up my color, going over it multiple times to build a darker shade. Then I took my soft pool and I blended out the line between those 2 blues. And I felt it wasn't dark enough, so I grabbed my Tide pool, and that's a little bit darker, and that was working really well with the Salty Ocean. I liked the gradual effect using this extra color. And then finally I will go back to that soft yellow and blend it a little bit at the bottom, make sure everything is blended nicely. And then I took a Sharpie poster paint pen and I just added little stars, little dots. So just very carefully with a light touch, because I didn't want them to be large. I wanted them to be very fine. Once that was done, I let it all dry, and then I pulled up my mask, and it mostly came off. There was just 2 little areas where I had to go back and pull off the little excess that was left over. And now for the snow, I am going to just add a little shading with the Prismacolor pencil. So I'm just adding the shadows, and this is sort of a turquoise color. So I'll just trace in where I want the shadows, and then I will take some Gamsol and a blending stump and just blend the color out. Now if you don't have this, you could go in with a Copic marker and a colorless blender, and you would get a very similar effect. So then I wanted to add a star, and this is from a Mama Elephant stamp set. So this is being stamped with Versamark, and I'm using some gold metallic embossing powder. And then you can see how it looks when it's all heat set. And then I just wanted to add a few dots to the, I guess, the fur on their hats and on the coats. So just a few dots there. And my journal page for my December daily is finished. I hope you enjoyed watching this. And if you would like to see a full list of supplies and links and the Copic marker numbers that I used, you can visit my blog on December 8th, 2015. Thank you very much for watching.